allowed to shoot back. If you do, like Khalil just said, you're going to jail. I know that's like really off subject, but like the whole, I don't know, it's kind of
no, and I absolutely like believe in that, and like one of the things that makes me so sad about like this experience is that you guys had like as individuals. Like the military, like don't get me wrong, I'm sure is like everyone loves doing because you form like this. I have friends in the military, and they say you form this brotherhood and this camaraderie, right? And like, and the places you go are incredible, and like it is incredible service that you get to do. But it was just that like this could have like this effort could have been redirected in other places that would have had much more positive benefits, right? Like and sad because like you guys seem like incredible people who put like a lot of your life at the line for this. That believe it or not was for a profit. Right, and that's that's sad and upsetting because like you like once again like hearing you two talk like it's like you like I respect both your opinions and what you have to say, right? And it's just like it's not, in my opinion, fair, right? And that's like a shame. It's like that. But I wanted to talk to what Tank's point was, which was like it was the Park Lane shooter that they disarmed, like a white shooter they disarmed. You know what I mean? The police got there and disarmed him. Right, he went and shot up the school. And like the same day, it was like in a similar county or the county next to it. They shot a black guy because he was on his cell phone, mistaked it for a gun.
I don't know. Yeah, right? I don't know what it is. I don't know what. Dude, just
it's so fucked.
It's America, dude. That's just the story of America.
This is a fun. Like you guys gotta understand, this is a funding issue. Like there's not enough police that come from like the communities, right? And like the police are supposed to be helping with the communities. The police are supposed to be a liaison with the law with you. And you guys don't. I'm sure that no one I've talked to in the States feels like that. It's either that the police either it's like it's the attitude which is like police are really good, or it's like the police are really bad, right? And like it's not really supposed to be like that. There should be more money. Like the police should come from your community, and you should know the people who want to enforce the laws and make laws for your communities and help develop the communities. And like I feel like I can do that here, but I don't ever hear like people feel like they can do that there.
Well, there's two half the problem with the whole when we were just talking about how white people will get disarmed, black people will get shot. It goes. Personally, my belief is it's 50-50. Half of it is because
I think it's 50-50. I honestly think it's 50-50, just like how it came back to the.
Half of it is racism, and the other half is geographically speaking.
They're flat out scared.
Or not
dude.
most
They're
black people. A lot of black people
dude.
live in underdeveloped communities, and the government just doesn't care about them. That's honestly, and that's
think about it like
how
this
it
too.
is. Like the government just doesn't.
Think about it like this too. Black people out there, I feel like it's like this. The police are just naturally just scared of the view of a black person. So, like, if a black person moves too fast, or stands up too quick, it's like, holy shit. You know
to
what I
be
mean?
fair,
like, oh shit, I don't know what this guy's gonna do.
To be fair, and this is what I don't like sometimes about the black community. We're always playing victims, and we're not trying to progress. So, what I mean by that is,
but hold up, but you guys are stuck in a systematic issue. Like most people don't have the actual opportunity to get out of it.
Even if you do try and progress, you're like shut down.
What I'm saying is, hold on, dude. You got. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's hang.
Okay. No, okay. I was just gonna say this. Let me just get this one point across, dude. Yeah. It was set up like this from the beginning, dude.
Is my cut out?
Oh man.
I was about to say hello. Like,
right when he
had something to say.
But what I was gonna say is, man, us as a society, and a lot of people do this, and they play victim and then act ignorant when they come around cops. Understand? I've been pulled over 5 fucking times. And each time, when I act respectful, I'm treated with the utmost respect, and they let me go.
Absolutely.
Right? So when you act an ass, they're gonna treat you some sort of way. So you're already putting an impression in their brain. If they walk up to your window and you're saying, "Man, fuck the police," all this shit, so you're automatically putting yourself in a hostile situation. So we have to educate both sides. Both sides need to be educated. Now, granted, the kid that got shot, a few of them, you can make different arguments, but I'm just saying, as a society as a whole, we have to be better.
And you're so correct, dude. So correct. And black people are so stupid, bro. They feel like they have to talk to the police. Fuck the police. Fuck the police. This. Fuck the police. That. They think they can talk to them any type of way. And that's the thing. Black people are known for just being aggressive or being crazy. You know what I mean? So what do you expect? What do you expect? What do you expect? You're running yourself into a trap. That's why every time I get pulled over by the police, it's yes, ma'am, no, sir, yes, sir. You get treated with the same respect you give off.
Dude, so I got,
you know what I mean?
I got pulled
I
over.
think that's universal and everywhere, you know?
I got pulled over doing 40 over the speed limit. And the cop walks up and I said, "How you doing, sir?" He's like, "What's, why you're driving reckless? I could literally take you to jail. What's going on?" And I go, "Well, sir, I was trying to make it to work, And I looked, and he was we were on the highway. And I say, "Sir, you might want to step over to the other side. You might get hit just based on where you're standing, because my truck is big, and it put him out in the pretty much in the highway." So he looked at me and was just like, "This guy's looking out for me, even though I just pulled him over. Okay, I got mad respect for this guy." And he goes, "Is this your truck?" Then he sees all my tags. I got all my Army tags and shit like that on there. And he's like, "You know what? Listen, man, I patrol this area all the time. Take it, go to work. Fuck, I forgot to buy a relic. Go to work, and I don't want to see you speeding again." And I said, "You know what? Thank you so much, sir."
Yep, just like that.
Just like that. Just so simple.
And that's what I'm saying. And then, oh, my bad.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good,
bro. I'm so into this right now.
Wait,
this is good. This is good.
Do we have two Hui's on this team?
That's the whole thing that I say about social media too. That's the same thing I say about social media too, because it's like, then you get these black people getting posted on social media to getting shot and all this. And the honest truth, dude, black people are so stupid, because it's like, you guys always say stop shooting our own kind, or stop shooting this, or stop shooting the black people. But honestly, the people that are killing black people the most are black people. There's more black on black crime than any other race crime there is. So it's like,
you're right.
At the end of the day, black people gotta build themselves up, period. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so it's like we can't really fault them, because we're acting like total fucking idiots. You know what I mean? And honestly, every police that I ran into, dude, I've honestly had, and I'm 6'5", dude. I'm a 6'5" fucking big ass black guy, right? 23 years old. I just show respect, dude. And every police that, dude, I get love back, dude. I show love, I get love back. So I just think we definitely have a disconnect. I don't know, dude. It's all fucked up.
Yeah,
it's all fucked up. But I can't say every fucking cop's racist, or every fucking cop. You know what I mean? I see some dumbass idiots sometimes on the videos that are about to get shot. They're talking to the police reckless, dude. Like, fuck you, bitch. Fuck your mom. And then that's what the police want you to do, because at the end of the day, they're going to show you that they have the authority. Like, bitch, oh, you want to talk to me like that? Oh, I have power. I'm gonna show you what kind of power I have. You know what I mean? And they're just gonna, dude. It's just crazy game, dude. I don't know.
Exactly.
It's crazy. We can talk about this forever.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that is, like, I can't speak to any of what you said, but I believe you, because that's like anecdotal experience, what you experienced. Like, where I grew up, we just once again, we don't have this issue. I know black people, but once again, that's not they experience racism and stuff, but it's not their experience. It's the same that you're talking about, right? They're once again. But once again, they're so used to getting pulled over and stuff like that. But once again, people don't get shot here. But at the end of the day, you're told, you gotta look at it too. Is the police officers. I think is the one thing is that it's every time I see it, the police officers usually aren't from the communities that they're going to, right? And the communities that don't, for the most time, don't look them as friends, right? And the police don't look at these people as friends. So if you show them a bit of respect, they're like, oh, okay, fine, this person's just a normal person. They're gonna be nice to me, but we're fine. But then someone gives an attitude because they view it as the outlet where, hey, police are shooting all my friends. We have all these issues.
Or they're pulling me. They're pulling me over because I'm black. No, dude, you were probably doing something fucking wrong.
So true. You're fine. Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
We have this issue in Canada because here we like Americans, when the British came here, we killed the indigenous populations here, but we didn't actually kill them as much as you guys did. There's still a large more number of groups, but we still have terrible policies with them, and we still hurt them. But right now, it's really hard to develop relationships with them, because throughout our whole history, the Canadian community, the British, the white community, whatever you want to call it, the settlers here, were never allies. We came there and we took their children from them. We brought them to residential schools, and then we forced them to live in a certain part of the place. Then we we have a hard history through this. So when we go there and we want to help them, and when we genuinely have good intentions, they don't look at us as friends. They don't have nice things to say to us, because once again, we've never done that. But once again, I had friends that were from those communities who were nice to me, who were kind to me, because we grew up together and we talked to each other. It's not a personal thing, it's a social thing, right? And that's how I see it, because it's really just no one understanding, and the number thing, right? If the police were if your brother or someone you knew wanted to be a police officer and was a police officer in the community, You know what I mean? Like, it would be different, a type of experience, but it's not like that. It's a guy from this community who pays, who has a certain type of education, who has to come patrol this community, and it's not the same thing. And that, I don't know. That's how I see it, because I think you guys are exactly
and just
right,
like you said,
like this whole difference.
Yeah, you got just like you made a good point about the fucking police not working in the communities that they're going to, and like that's the thing too. Like most of these police that get a call in a black neighborhood, they're already fucking flat out scared to go to the fucking neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, so they're already going there on tilt, dude, on edge, dude, paranoid and shit out. So I know if I had a gun and I was scared, dude, it's nothing stopping me from pulling that fucking trigger. But the thing is, these fucking police are trained at these guns, dude. So it's like, they know what they're shooting at. They're trying to kill. They're shooting to kill, man. I mean, you can shoot a guy in the leg. If he's running, you don't see no gun, shoot him in the leg.
And that was one of the arguments I made, too. I was like, why are we always shooting to kill, man? Like, what is that?
Yeah, they're shooting to kill, dude. These guys are shooting to kill, dude. Like, they're not
that's the point, too, right? Exactly. Like, if you guys, like, that's the whole point. Like, your police officers kill people. Like, that's, in in almost no situation in other countries, like, police kill people. Like, that's a point I'm trying to make. That's like, it's like absurd.
Yeah, police are
that
police, dude.
Murder
in other countries.
Yeah, like, you got to think of this too. Like, think of it and like empower this is like democracy and institution exist because we overthrew these from monarchies. Right, we overthrew these from these are the people who demand things. So when we pay taxes, because we say everyone pays into this pot because we are making this place better for everyone, right? And we're paying into everyone. The police are there to be liaison to help the communities, and and they're supposed to be benefits to the community, and we have them to help the communities. But that doesn't happen because they can be manipulated in institutions, right? But that's what they're for, and like that's what a democracy is for: is that you, the people, have the power, not some queen, not some king, not some random person, not a corporation. The people have the power, and that's the important factor, right? And but like in America, it's different because it's made to be more of a game, right? Because there's so much to gain from the being an empire. But that's a bit off track. Yes. My kind of point. Just in it all was like the crime that's going on could be prevented if there's just more investment in the people. Like if the people were just investing in each other, if you guys want to go to school, where you're trained in coding, like had good facilities and access to healthy foods and good spaces, like y'all would be able to do shit, right? Like you guys would be able to do something and accomplish things, but you don't. Because everyone tells you can't, or that money's not worth spending there, or that's socialist to spend money on people like that. But fuck those people. The government, you guys got the government because you guys said no to those people in the first place who said you guys couldn't do shit. The French killed people. Y'all said no to the British. Y'all were under a crown, a monarchy who owned you, and you were like, no, the people own this now. We did the same. We just asked for it at the end because they were worried about you guys too. Again, they were worried about losing all of Canada.
Can I say something kind of funny real quick?
Yeah, but
fucking for anyone that wants to say that video games makes people violent, and here we are having a civilized conversation about this shit. like you know how many people say video games make you a violent person? Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. We're trying to fix the world.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like the people who are telling you can't do it are paid to tell you they can't do it, and they're getting to do what they want to do, right? The companies are giving them massive amount of money to tell you can't do it, and then getting lawyers from their companies to write laws that match what their fucking multinational corporations want, right?
America's all about the corporate. Dude, they don't give a fuck about not one person, dude.
Dude,
it's all
corporations,
about money, corporations, dude. They don't give a fuck about anything else.
People who talk about corporations or people are wrong too, because corporations were designed to give private investors an incentive to build a railway systems here in America. That's why they did it. That's why they invented them. Because they were like, why would I put all my money in here? If it fucking collapses, I'm fucking doomed. I lose everything, right? Because that's how fucking private enterprise works, or a partnership works. A limited, you know what I mean? All your money to be liable. And like, why the fuck would I want to build a railway system that's across the country that I might lose all my money on and then be liable if it crashes? Fuck that. And they're like, what about a corporation where you have no liability? They're like, all right, we might be able to work with that. And that's what happened. And now we just expanded it to everything. Like, the world is like, I talk to people and they talk like capitalism's the only way, when there's like 6 other economic systems that have market systems in it. that just like let other people have the ownership of shit, but like you're not allowed talking about it because like there's cooperative economics, which literally has a marketplace. Like the only thing different is that the people either like you can't be a capitalist owner, which just means like if you want to own the company, you either got to be a worker for the company, you got to be a supplier, you got to be a customer or a producer. It's one of those four. That's it. Like, and there's a lot of laws that support it, but like they exist in different places around the world now. Quebec is the part. There's places in Italy. Like it's a real economic system that would benefit the people. Like more people get rich on average in cooperative systems, make less money.
Yeah,
total.
dude, that's the thing about America, dude. Like I understand, like racism, I can't be mad about that. Like I understand.
I can't be mad.
Like how I think about racism,
I'm a 6'5"
dude, I
black
think
guy.
about it.
Racism can't be bad.
No, how I think about it, look, this is how I think about it though. I think about racism as a business move, bro. They went to Africa. They seen, okay, these Africans are selling each other as slaves. Okay, so why won't we buy it? You know, why won't we buy some? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they brought them to America just to like build the economy, build the land. Okay, I can't be that mad about it. But now it's like, okay, you just slaved black people for so long. Like we're like your best friends in America, dude. Like we've been here with you guys from the beginning. You know what I mean? So it's like now it's time to work together. Like what the fuck, dude? You don't just throw your best dog out on the fucking street, right? You fucking love that dog, and you take care of him.
But it's about capital.
Not the big business thing. That's what I'm saying. So they don't give a fuck about teamwork. They just care about, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it right, dude. Like, and that's the cool thing about America, dude. Only about 10% of America, like, America's owned by this fucking group, dude. Like these rich ass fucking, I don't even know, dude. Like, it's so fucked up, dude. I can't even talk about it because it just makes it. America needs help, dude. America needs help, dude. Literally.
You'll love this story. So one of my friends, he was reading this book when I was traveling, and I forget what it was called, but at the beginning of it was this like a whole monologue or preface of this the oral history of when the first European boats came to Africa, because there was no written history at the time, right? So there's no confirmation, right? So there's no confirmation. Like you can't say this is true, but this is just the oral history that was passed on. And so what had happened was they actually, when the white people came and landed there, they had a lot of like goods to trade, you know, like weapons and stuff. And white people, at least this is what they said at the time, when you die and you're left out in like sun for a while, your body turns white. You know what I mean? The body goes white. Yeah. So these and also due to the horizon, the boats would come over the horizon. So they thought these were like ancestors coming from the dead, right? And so what they thought was, and this is a real thing, right? They thought that these were ancestors from the dead, and then they realized that they wanted to buy black people, like these black people, or you know, some of the people that were living there, and they could give them things like wine and guns and stuff. So communities exiled other communities they didn't like and put them into the slave trade and benefited from it. So they claimed that they owned the people and then got the people that they didn't like into the slave trade. And it became like a ruthless business of people like trying to capture other people and like saying who was allowed to be sold and stuff. All for like once again, it's not quite like there's no like confirmation on that, but that's like why they believe like the wine.
Yeah, and I believe it, dude, because like the fucking Egyptian, dude, look at the writings that they did, dude. They are so spiritual and fucking
absolutely.
Like so, like and like that's what I said. Like they were slaving each other first, way before the fucking Europeans even thought about coming to Africa, dude. And they just
this was one of the first times it was a business move. This was one of the times it was a business move. They saw them and they bought them for cheap labor. Yeah, exactly. And like what was interesting,
I think it was a business move, dude. Like and it just
like in the Bible. In the Bible, I'm not a religious person, but I've read all the good Gospels. Like I've read, you know, the Old Testament, the New Testament, the Quran. You know, I've dabbled. And like one of the things, the Bible talks about you're allowed to have slaves, like, and it's your right to have slaves. Not only your right to have slaves, your slave can only get into heaven if they treat their Christian master better than another master. But slavehood was a part of a social class for a long time in society. It's not anymore, right? Like it's just not okay on any context. And what was interesting about the slave trade is like, it created the empire that the South was. Right, and triggered like the Civil War, and the Civil War was actually the world's first World War. Like people think World War I was the first World War. The Civil War, the American Civil War, was the first real war because due to how low cotton prices were, it changed like how the demographic flow of like textiles went. So like India was like no longer exporting cotton or growing cotton; they were developing stuff, right? They were like making shit and buying cotton. So when cotton prices went really high because of the Civil War, war broke out all across Europe. because there was money involved. They brought oil across Africa and it went across India. It was like the first real global war that happened because of it. And one of the great things you'll learn about it too is that investors in Europe knew that investing in southern properties were more risky because of the slave trade. Like if you invested in companies, they offered a higher interest rate and yield, like companies that use slave labor, because they knew that there would be more likely to a resistance. So like that's how you got to understand when you look at the world. That's how cold finance becomes, right? Like at the time, people knew that slavery wasn't okay, and they were like, all right, well, if we sell the company's bonds that own this, we just have to give it a higher price. That's how finance works. So you got to apply that to the highest level of like controlling governments with like hedge funds and, you know, like what you would actually do to make you not lose your investment, right? Like, you know, so.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, dude. Man, it's business. It's crazy, but it's
crazy.
It's so fucking. It's just the way it is, bro. And all I'm saying is, if the world can just calm down for a little bit and get their dicks out of their ass and just be like, okay, we're gonna actually work together and figure out this world shit, dude. It'll be better, dude. But I feel like the people in higher power are not worried about the world as a whole, because at the end of the day, we're fucking up the world as it is, just Mother Earth, period. So sooner or later,
but the rich are doing that.
Earth to live on.
Yeah, like, but industry does that. Like, if everyone stopped, like, driving a car, right? Like, 50% of all climate emissions from, like, energy use happen from industry. Like, it wouldn't matter what humans, like, if humans all tomorrow stop using fossil fuels, except for, like, companies, we still wouldn't be able to stop the energy crisis, right? Like, they're the biggest consumers, large, that create the supply issue. But, like, the whole point, like, I've worked for companies that have had, like, very rich people in them, and like very rich people from my province and stuff. I've got means things, and their attitude to a lot of political issues is fucking worry about yourself. That's what I've been told time and time again by rich people.
That's the problem,
is worry
dude. They don't
about
care
yourself.
About nobody.
Exactly, man. My old Polish boss, I used to like. Yeah, I used to work with this Polish guy. He ran this store. He ran this construction company. He had like these investment, like real estate company, and he would let me trade gold with him. Like I was a cashier at the time, but I studied finance, so he would like let me trade gold in his office with him. And I would talk to him about all these social issues, and every social issue that came up, he was just like he was apathetic to it, because like he was just like, this doesn't matter to me. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I want to live forever. Like, I don't care about these people. Like worry about yourself. Let's make money. Like, I don't care. And then the more rich people I met, that's all their attitude was, too. Was like, who gives a shit what these people are about?
That's
like, worry about yourself. Don't you have your own problems? Yeah, exactly, though. Like, they're like, worry about your own problems. They're like, get yourself straight before you worry about someone else. It's like, dude, but you can't. We can't afford to watch out for other people. Like, fuck it. Doesn't matter, though. We could, though. Oh, man. Like, we like, right now, for example.
That's what it should be.
Like, right now, we have enough food in the world to feed everyone. It's a supply issue. Like, most food in the world goes to meat, and most also, like, even if we took away half of that, we could still supply the meat supply. But most of the developed world throws about 50% of their food out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
It, right?
And it's, you know what else is crazy? I've been watching, like, some Netflix documentaries about, like, some of these countries that are just still, like, in shitty conditions, like, no water, no fucking anything, dude. It's crazy. Like, they still live in the dirt. Fucking, it's just crazy. There's still places in the world that's like that.
Yeah, man.
Like, and we're so rich over here. Dubai is doing fucking excellent. Like, oh, man, FIFA, this motherfucker just cheated, dude. What? But yeah, like, we have, I don't know, dude. America alone has enough to feed the fucking whole world, dude. Like, literally. Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You gonna let me loose?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna join this party with my cousin real quick.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I'll be right back to your party.
Fuck. Yeah, man, but I know you guys are kind of the same page here, and like once again, I don't want to talk like I know you guys are Americans. Like, once again, because I don't, right? Like, I really am from a different country and stuff. And we do actually carry a lot of similar things, because like a lot of our media comes from you guys. Like, basically all of our industry is like trading with America, right? So like we do like get a lot of you guys crossover. But like, I just want you guys to know, like, you guys have like, there's a real hope with people I meet that can do something, but just like people don't feel like they can. But like, just like see what you like, try to see what you can do. What I was told was, what can you do that's tangible that can make a difference? And so a good example is when I was in university, I worked. I believe in like climate justice. I don't really want to know if you're on board with climate change or not, but to us in Canada, it's like one of the biggest issues in the world. Anyway, we're working hard on it, and we wanted to get the university I went to remove investments from fossil fuel companies, but we didn't really know how to do it. And on top of that, we didn't really know what funds we could ask for, right? Because like we can't really ask for the pension funds, which is like what the teachers rely on, which would be a huge pushback. But the school has a fund called an endowment fund, which is like given by students, which is fundraised by people, given by alumni. You know, people give it, like people graduate from universities and start companies and give those shares to the university. You know what I mean? To get like their expertise maybe or stuff like that. So we wanted them to remove their money from that. And I was one of the people who got to meet with that school's investment committee to discuss the options and the opportunities to actually like remove their investments. And it was like we didn't end up getting to do it, but we actually made them do things and put them in the news, and other schools ended up divesting in a response to that school not divesting, because we actually made them vote on it officially. We brought it and got it to go to a board of governors meeting, which is like where they review financial statements and which is open to the public, and we got it on their agenda after like a year and a half of tabling it. And it didn't work, but it was something tangible that we could have done, that we did do, if you know what I mean. Like, we didn't succeed, which is once again unfortunate. But you can't succeed at everything, and it wouldn't be better if we tried a different way. It was the university was just not on board, because Shell Oil is a huge investor of our engineering school here. Like they give us like millions of dollars each year to do the engineering school, and then they hire tons of students, so they didn't want to jeopardize any of that. So it makes sense, right? But like the whole point is, the world isn't unattainable. You know what I mean? The world something can be done about things, even if it's not seems likely. That's my thing.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
Long story short, shit needs to be done, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
You know if Fortnite's up yet?
Yeah, it looks up, but I'll try something.
Yeah, try a squads.
Yeah, I'll try a squads. Anyway, yeah.
Shit, we've been talking about that shit for like an hour now. Or just like not that.
Yeah, but I mean that's what needs to happen. But obviously on a mass level.
I love having these conversations. Like the fact that we were able to like actually sit here and do it. Like I enjoyed it. Like, you know, because I personally I like getting people's perspective. Like everyone has their own view. Everyone has their own and the people that will sit there and just say, no, that's not right. Those are the worst kind of people. I'm going to have my views and believe my views until proven wrong. And I will admit when I'm wrong. I'll be like, oh, shit. Like, that's a very good point. Like, you're right. But a lot of people aren't like that, though.
No, and absolutely not. And that's why we need to invest more money in education, because, like, you got to understand, statistically speaking, there will always be those people, right? Like, so you don't have to, like, get rid of them. You just have to make sure that there's not enough of them to influence everyone, right? If you have an educated population, it's unlikely that you're going to be able to allow to like have bad policies, because people will hold the government accountable. Like in Quebec, for example, which is like, in my opinion, the most progressive province in Canada, like the tuitions, like if you want to go to university, it's like it's almost like, what is it, $900 a year or something to go to university in Quebec. In Quebec, in one province, because every time they try to raise the tuition rates, the students like try to shut down the government, and so they don't raise tuition rates ever. You know what I mean? Like, people are like, we're just not doing it. And like, people show up though. It's not just students. It's old people. It's young people. It's people who believe that education should be accessible. And that's how I feel. I feel educate. Like, I believe that if you have a skill that you want to learn, if you want to become an investor, or you know, if you want to become an audio engineer, if you want to become, you know, like an engineer or anything like that, or you want to like design computers, you shouldn't just be limited because you don't have enough money. It's stupid. That's a stupid idea. Right? Like, we benefit from taxing people. At least in Canada we do. We benefit from taxing people. So you want to have the most educated, high service industries ever. And make more of them. You know?
Right.
But what I think a good point is, remember how earlier you were saying how... Oh, shucks. Hold on, my phone's gonna die. Give me 1 second.
You're good. Fuck. I'm dead. I'm still trying to learn the abilities. I've never played her alone.
Sorry, we good. But one thing that I think is important to mention that we talked about earlier, remember how you were saying that those kids that were shot at in Parkland, right, aren't experts on their situation, right?
Right.
It's true. It's their experience is anecdotal, right? Which is just, I mean, like, it's not, doesn't represent the statistical average, or I mean, like, it's just one stat in a huge data mine, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it doesn't represent everyone. Like, if, for example, another good example is, like, we play Halo, or we play competitive games with a lot of good people that we may not think we're the best players out of the people we know, but out of all the players who play video games, we're the best players. You know what I mean? Do you understand what I mean by that?
To tell you the truth, not really, because I'm 100% aware that I'm not the best.
No. I know that. But think of all the players who play any games at all, right? Ever. Your parents, your grandparents, there's games like that. Out of all the gamers who play games, we're the top 1% of those gamers. There's millions of people who are way ahead of us. Millions of people who are far ahead of us that let's go get. But we are the 1%, right? And, like, so it's still the anecdotal experience that we don't feel like that. And so my point was that, remember how they were talking about, about what it's like to be black and what it's like, that black people act a certain way. Like, that's an anecdotal perspective as well. That is correct, but it's like that there's still the point that it's bigger, where the fact that it's education and, that the fact that the police aren't allies. Like, it's still, like, it's not warranting saying it's wrong. It's just saying that let's not make this like, let's respect the kids because of what happened, but let's listen to them, let's listen to the experts, let's listen to what everyone has to say, right? But, like, they could be a part of the conversation, which is the important piece, right? And I think that's the only thing we need to do.
No, being a part of the conversation is, like, don't get me wrong, I don't think that having them as the professional speakers, like, I'm talking, like, these guys are, like, the face of the government right now, and that's almost not even an exaggeration. Like, these guys are running everything, like, these kids, and I'm just, like, there's a point where it's like, listen, like,
it's working, it's working.
It is? Oh, shit, okay, I'll be on in, like, 10 minutes then. I just gotta finish this game, it's fine.
Quitting my game right now.
But, I don't know, it's kind of one of those weird things where I'm just like, I get it all, but I don't, it's not that I don't respect their opinion, because I definitely do, like, I understand it, but I think that, like, these kids are in over their head. Like, if you listen to some of the, like, because they have interviews, and if you have, like, if you listen to some of the interviews that they have with, you know, these politicians and these people that actually know what they're talking about, they literally sound like idiots. Like, they really do. Yeah. But yet, at the same time, people are listening to them and thinking, oh, these are the people we need to be listening to. And that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, don't focus on those people. Like, there's a lot of those people, but that's not, like, the whole narrative, right? Like, just, like, view it the way you do now, which is, like, these people went through this experience, their opinion is valid and their input's valid, but it's not the only thing that matters. The world's more nuanced than what one person has to say about anything. Like, even you're listening to me, and I wouldn't even take what I'm saying for full value, and I've listened to tons of other people about what I say, right? Like, I don't want to, like, I don't think I'm the holy grail of information, or what I'm telling you is what you should believe, you know what I mean? But by all means, that's, like, the world's allowed to be more complicated, and we can imagine things more complex in a more complex fashion than just saying, oh, this person says this, then that's how it is, or this person says all this stuff, that therefore they're disqualified from their expertise, or that everything that they say should be important. And we can just say, okay, well, let's hear what they have to say. Okay, the thing that they said was important, which is just that let's not let kids be fucking traumatized going to school. Like, to hear you say, like, you bought a gun so you can go to the movies is, like, sad to hear. And I mean that in, like, a way where I don't mean, like, in any disrespectful way, but, like, in a general way that makes me sad to hear that, right? Like, yeah, like, exactly, like, it's, like, sad for me to hear that, like, for you to have to feel safe, you had to get a gun to go to the movie theater, is like, makes me actually, like, genuinely, like, sad. Like, that's hard to know. And, like, once again, I'm not, like, you are making the right call, of course, but it's just, you know, that exists is just shitty. So, it's just, like, once again, the world's more nuanced, because once again, like I don't think that you should be able to own a gun in the movie theater, but in the context of the fact that you should have to have a gun in the movie theaters because you feel like someone else is going to shoot you, maybe you should fucking have a gun in the movie theater. You know what I mean? But, like, in the just the context of, if we could say that, could we not have guns in the movie theater, then yeah, of course, but there's what I think there's a more chronic issue at hand, right? Because to hear the fact that, like, for you to feel safe, you need a gun is sad, but it doesn't stem from the fact that you just want a gun. It stems from the fact that you feel you need a gun to be safe, and it's logical, right? It's a logical conclusion. It's not like, but for example, if you came here, owning a gun to feel safe would be absurd. You would make other people feel so unsafe that they would ask you not to have it. If you used it recklessly, of course. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you had a gun, people wouldn't give a shit. But, you know, if you waved it around at people, or, you know, you had it under your bed or something, or you know, loose. But, anyway. Like, it's just like that. I think that's my thing. But all I hear is, like, people being very rational. You know what I mean? Like, everyone wants to, like, you hear guns being taken away. You like everyone likes the idea. Like, yeah, if we could make it harder for people who shouldn't get guns to not get guns, let's do it. But how do we do it in a way that works? And how do we do it in a way that doesn't lead to the fact that everyone takes away all of our guns, right? And then they disarm us completely. And like, and for example, you're saying that you really, like, I feel like you need a gun to be safe to go to the movie theater based off of how it was told to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's like what it is more about, right? So it's like, how do you fix that issue? And it won't be, and like, believe it or not, these issues aren't easy to fix, but if you think in time horizons of 20, 30, 40 years, they're not very complicated. They're not very hard to fix. But it's just, are you willing to make a sacrifice that takes 20 to 30 years to fix something, right? So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because it takes generations, right? Like, for example, I want to end war in the world, but I think, like, realistically, like, 80 years is a realistic time frame to end war. You know what I mean? 80 years could be it. Because before that, you have people who have grown up in generations of war, right? Of who their grandparents have died in war, that their parents have died in war, that they are now in the war that they're fighting, and their kids are growing up in, that they're only growing more hardened and more war capable of, right? And they're not, if they live a long time, they live to be 30 or 40, they're not just going to stop being in war. Right, unless there's a reason not to, and there still might be.
I also feel war is gonna solve itself, and the only reason I say that is because the next war that happens, it's not necessarily going to be the end of the world, but the next war that happens, the amount of countries that have nuclear weapons now, it will literally destroy the entire world. So I mean, with the exception
the world's
of
not going to do
like
it.
The
world's going to get scared, man.
Of leaders like Kim Jong-un and fucking Putin and all that, with the exception of those guys, everyone's scared to start a war at this point, because if we start a war with anyone, guess who's against us? Places like China and Russia and all that. So that's the only reason I don't think there'll be another war.
It's so interesting because, like, you gotta know this. Korea is, like, actually not, like, if you know a lot of, like, political theory and, like, foreign policy, like, you know North Korea is not really, like, a threat. They get, like, a little heated, and they're, like, a little bit of geopolitical issues in the region, because they cause a little controversy, but they really just, like, bash on America. Fortnite's working, by the way. They really just bash on America as a way of legitimizing their government, right? Which is a dictatorship. They say America's bad, it's terrible, and they're our big enemy, and they drum up, and that's why you gotta support us, because we're the government that can help you. And America attacking North Korea would actually, like, be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and would make the people realize that Kim Jong-un was probably the right government. But they're not really a threat. They're really poor. They don't have a lot of money. And the interesting part is too is that
weapon sense, though.
Yeah, but who cares? Like, everyone has nuclear weapons. Like, Iran has the ability. Like, Iran doesn't need nuclear weapons, for example. Okay, so think of it like this: you have nuclear weapons, so no one kills you. You don't use nuclear weapons, right? Like, people, like, have nuclear weapons so you don't attack them. Like, Pakistan has a nuclear weapon so they don't get attacked.
So you're saying that
this
like,
is
Kim
right?
Jong-un isn't gonna use that shit, like...
No, he doesn't want to use it. No, believe it or not, he only has it so that, once again, let me explain it to you why, and I'll explain it to you in a sense that makes sense. So Iran can sign the nuclear deal, right, with all these governments around the world, and be legitimized for the one reason that enough oil and natural gas flows through the the Persian Gulf, right? It's like something like 20 to 30% of all hydrocarbon resource trade goes through this, and a lot of global trade does as well. And they can stop that with their regular military, and they could shock global oil prices, and they could, you know what I mean? All I mean is that they, without nuclear tactics, can hold the world hostage if they wanted to. The same way America could with their nuclear weapons, right? Like, they have a strategy the same way Israel could, the same way Pakistan could. So these are the reasons that Iran can be like, hey, I'll sign the nuclear deal and we'll be okay with it. We won't need nuclear weapons, because they don't. If you need nuclear weapons because you're not attacked, if someone attacks them, they'll shock global oil markets, and what can you do, right? You guys won't be able to go to work tomorrow. Like, the price of the gas will be too high. Like, it'll happen overnight, right? Like, this is like, so they can do an economic war, so they don't need it. But they won't do it either because they want people to trade with them. They've been under sanctions for the last 20 years, and the sanctions have just been off them. They want new resource and information technology coming. The problem with North Korea is it has no political strategic objective at all. Iran is Saudi Arabia, which is America's ally, which helps them in OPEC and helps them in, with the oil petrodollar, is the sole enemy to Iran. And Iran's enemy is Saudi Arabia. They're enemies against each other. So fighting Iran helps America. And so signing this nuclear deal normalizes them. So they don't need it to do anything. North Korea has no strategic position or political analysis at all. Like, no one gives a shit about them. They're poor. They have no benefit. They're not on any major trade routes. They're suffocated by the fact that they're between China and Russia, and the fact that North Korea or South Korea trades with everyone and is a friendly empire. No one cares. They're just not a benefit. But North Korea drums up the war drum because they need to legitimize their institutions. Because if not, nothing is stopping the people from overrising and taking it over. There's nothing. Because they're poor, they don't benefit from anything. But what they benefit is that they say America, the biggest government in the world, is going to attack us and they're going to kill us. And they rally and say, look at us, we're gonna be against them. They're the small guy saying, look, we're going to beat the shit out of you, right? The big guy who could fucking one-punch him, right? And that's what's happening. And so that's why I'm scared of North Korea, because you like if war went to North Korea, it would just be America killing tons of poor people. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Like, that's all it would be. It would just be Americans killing poor people who have now believed that what they believed their whole life was true. Like, it would be self-fulfilling, which is the shame. So the whole point is that so they need nuclear weapons to legitimize the government, right? Because, eventually the people will take it over. If America doesn't attack it, and South Korea doesn't attack it, and China doesn't attack it because they don't care, nothing's going to happen. And the people will say, well, why don't they want to attack us? Why don't they want to kill us? And then they'll revolt against the government. But if they have nuclear weapons, then they can solidify institutions. They can say, no, you take us over, we do something, right? And they can fight against the people themselves. And so there's this actual, like my uncle was from South Korea, or not from South Korea, sorry. He grew, when I grew up my whole life, he lived in South Korea, right? And over his whole life, Kim Jong-un would start kicking up, and his father Kim Jong-il would start kicking up the war drums, and he would talk to all the elders there, and they would be like, is this a serious issue? And almost always in their lives they said no, right? Because it's not an issue. They're powerless. They don't have anything. It's just so that the world looks at them, so they're in the news, and then they can legitimize themselves, right? Because if Kim Jong-un's saying, "Oh, we're testing nuclear weapons," and it's in the New York Times, and it's in the Moscow Post, and it's on all these top, magazines around the world, they can say, "Look, we're a real government, and look, we're really taking on the bad American imperialists," and people are like, "Yeah, we are," But America says, "Yeah, we fucking hate you too."
I've never heard of it put in that way. That's very,
Yeah, so think of how governments work, right? And so North Korea kind of needs this to this is the only thing they can do. They have no other options. They're not relevant, right? And they're not relevant, and they took the wrong route in the Cold War. That's it. This is how simple as simple as it gets. In Cold War, it was America versus it was either the Soviets, or you were the socialists, or you were the American capitalists. What were you, right? And China's interesting as a side note here. China is interesting because they refused to be on either team. You become communist, but they refused to be on other teams. But worked with dictatorships because they were alternative governments that weren't quite socialist or, capitalist democratic governments. So China has really weird ties to all these really weird monarchies and ruthless governments in Africa and Central Asia and stuff because of that. But that's a side note. But that's why North Korea doesn't matter. North Korea is only being drummed up now because I believe that most people don't know a lot of foreign policy, and I think North Korea talks a lot of shit, and most Americans know that they could beat the shit out of them, and you guys don't like a world where America's not being held as the respect. You know what I mean?
Right.
And not everyone. Maybe not you guys, and maybe not you, but you can definitely tell the general tone of nationalism is big in America and very much respected. So anyway, but that's my point of why, I wouldn't worry about North Korea. They're really not a threat.
But I mean, I understand they're not an initial threat. My whole point behind it is if there was to start another war, I believe that it's almost pretty much game over for the entire world.
Yeah, well, I mean, if anyone
I understand what you're saying. It actually all does make sense, but it's just with the amount of countries that own nuclear weapons now, it's you piss the one person off, and it's practically game over. Because that's just all allies gonna start unleashing their nuclear weapons.
Exactly. But I believe, I have a bit of more faith in people these days. I believe that the world is so open now, and you can get your news from anywhere in the world and learn about anyone in the world. That it's hard to paint a general brush of being people are fucking stupid from everywhere. You can't just be foreigners are completely dumb from everywhere, which is that may sound blunt, but that's a very old popular belief in everywhere. You know what I mean?
Oh, hold on. Give me wants to. Chloe, you want to just leave this game and go jump on Fortnite?
Yeah, come on, boys.
I don't know if that's a yes or no from him.
But
Alright, I'm leaving the game.
I forget what I said.
Yeah, well, it's Fortnite time anyway.
Yeah.
I like talking to you about this shit, though, man. You're a very intellectual person, man.
Well, thank you. I hope I'm just not like sometimes I can just like drain off about it because I just love it's a lot of information. So sometimes I can talk a lot, but yeah, like thank you. I appreciate talking to you too. You have a very interesting perspective, and I enjoy hearing it.
It's nice. Cool. I left the game, by the way. I just jumped on Fortnite.
Yeah. But
what?
Yeah, I was tired of playing that game. I just want to play Fortnite because I only got like 2 hours left in me because I'm about to go fishing.
Yeah,
bit, so.
Exactly. What were we saying right before you were hopping off Fortnite?
Shit, dude, I have an offer.
Yeah, it was kind of, it was just something about governments, right? And it's like, don't get me wrong, I totally agree that there's nuclear war that could happen, but I believe like we could hold governments much more easily accountable now, and like organizing is a lot easier with like social media. Like I know like recently the Israeli Defense Force killed 17 people and injured 1,700 in a peaceful protest in Gaza, right? Like I would have never known that 40 years ago if it happened, right? Where would I have learned that? What information would I have got that from, right? But I know it happened. So I believe the world's a bit more connected, and I believe if anyone was like really gonna, do a nuclear option or really invade someone so ruthlessly, I think the people would try to stop it. You know what I mean? Especially if it was like, we're gonna use the nuclear bomb.
Well, I was just gonna say you can practically counterpoint because I see it in both ways. Either the world's gonna end in the next war because everyone has nuclear weapons, or there'll never be a war because everyone has nuclear weapons. You can play it to either side because knowing the fact that someone has that, why go to war with that person knowing that it could be sent off at any point? Granted, I know people have like anti-fucking jeez, I've been drinking way too much. Anti-fucking missile defenses, whatever you want to call it. But like, I mean, you could play it to almost either side though. Whether it's
like,
play it to the side where. Go ahead.
Yeah, think of it like this. So in political theory, there was a concept in the Cold War called MAD, and it was an acronym for mutually assured destruction, right? And or there's I think mutually assured destruction, which was that if one person used a nuclear weapon in the war, the other person would use the nuclear weapon back. So it would it was called MAD, right? And it was the political concept, right? And so. What ended up happening was we had things like Afghanistan, which was like the Soviets boosted the government, right? And so then the Americans funded the rebel groups, which ended up becoming like the Taliban and stuff, right? Which is like how like the ISIS eventually was created too. But they went there because like America couldn't formally attack Russia, or Russia couldn't formally attack America without them completely killing each other. So what they did was they had a proxy war, which is what like they fund two sides of a war, and they get people to like fight it out. And so America did that with the Soviets, and the Soviets funded the government, and that was it. And like it was a ruthless war that literally was only proved to have was only fought so that they could prove who was better militarily and tactically. And the same thing is happening now in Yemen. There's a Cold War between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And they're in the middle of their war, and so the what is it? The Iranians are sponsoring a rebel group called the Houthis, who have taken over the government, and America and Saudi Arabia have not been helping the government, but have been using airstrikes only on Houthi rebels. So, their Cold War is going on too, but it's the same thing. You know what I mean? Like
Mitch,
this is just like it's how the world will actually work. So, no one's really gonna like commit global end of the worldness.